Yeah. Fine. Okay. Gordon, hi. How are you doing?
I'm very happy, thank you. How are you?
I am fantastic. Super excited to see you. Thanks for making time for me.
No, you're welcome. I mean, apart from cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 7 of us on a daily basis, there's nothing else to do right now.
When you think about lockdown for you, how has it been? Because you're normally unbelievably busy running around, and you've been presumably, at least first time around, maybe less this time, kind of forced confinement, which has been, I can tell, nice because you've been a lot of time with the family. But for you, what are you taking from it? What would you keep from lockdown going forward when we're back open again?
Time like this will never get back in our careers, fingers crossed, ever again. And so I taught all the teams from day one in lockdown, get creative, continue that stimulant, continue that search, that evolution. From daily Zooms to looking at a box of vegetables delivered from the local farmer in Cornwall, I made all of our teams dig deep for that level of innovation. So from an industry point of view, we're at the forefront. We're the standard bearer of our industry. So you need to keep that DNA. And I said every day, polish it, get outside, go for a walk and get some fresh air.
I mean, you employ, I would imagine, hundreds of people, right, across the 30 odd restaurants. How have you struggled with that? Well, obviously they can't go to work, that's their livelihoods. And we've tried to put in place some things to help, which hopefully have made a difference. But I mean, obviously it sounds like you've been on the phone with some of them, teaching some of them, but how have you just handled that enormous workforce with people's livelihoods that they can't go back to over the past several months?
My big primary concern, for the first 3 months of this lockdown, last year was focusing on the under 30s, mentally connecting, spending more time talking to them. And to be honest, time that I never could have spent with them before. Time that was nothing to do with running a restaurant or developing a recipe or serving, amazing customers. It was finding out about them, their personalities, what upsets them in the morning when they wake up. And they've never had this chance to sort of convey those messages before. So that was instrumental. It was letting them know that this is a temporary halt and this is not going to last forever. So it was keeping their minds active and stopping them falling off to the wayside, feeling, what's the point? Because we're never going to come back. That was the first real pivotal moment of this lockdown. I know you've had a hellish year. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a chancellor in the history of government that's experienced what you've experienced the last 12 months. And in hindsight, no one saw that coming. So I look at the setups in Italy and France and Spain and the US and Germany, and I think we've been given one of the most incredible support systems from the furlough scheme, which was instrumental in maintaining, some form of positivity. Then we had that amazing break with VAT, which was, pivotal at 5%, and then the sort of deferred payments, with the business rates. Those caveats worked out brilliantly. We got into big negotiations with the landlords of deferring rent. Clearly, no restaurant is, full of oxygen unless they've got the right suppliers. So, we contacted all our suppliers, and that kind of one-to-one connect within 7 days of lockdown was really important to understand we're all in this together and we are going to come out of it.
And how have you found the conversation with the landlords?
Landlords have been super positive. There's always going to be one or two in the background that aren't complying. But I think what they've really understood is that when you have a brand that is strong and you're coming back even stronger, and I think that was one of the key points for the team to focus on repositioning these restaurants better and stronger than we were before lockdown. And so almost treat those businesses like a new opening.
As you think about your businesses and the coming out of lockdown, how is the industry going to evolve and adapt? What's going to happen to the industry when you look forward?
I think back to July the 4th last year, and the level of excitement to get those restaurants open. It was much needed. It was a perfect scenario in the summer. Everybody thought we were out of this thing. And of course, we tread carefully with caution. We took all those necessary measures. And more importantly, customers felt secure inside those restaurants. They felt, that they were sort of in this bubble. They were being protected and they were sort of enjoying what it feels like to eat out again.
Obviously, economically, it's incredibly important. 2 million people employed, 200,000 businesses. So it's a big part of the economy. But it's that other bit you talked about. It's that connection with people in their communities. It just gives joy to people's lives. It brings life to, villages, towns across the country. And seeing that taken from us is incredibly sad, right? And we have to recapture that again, like last summer.
Yeah, it's a multi-facet, multi-talented industry with all different sort of layers of uniqueness. I remember being 22, standing in the middle of Paris without a pot to piss in, and it was an absolute sort of beating on a daily basis about being English and the way they used to take advantage of how crap our food was. So to be in this situation now and see, what a beacon of strength we are in Europe, and we can rub shoulders with the French, the Spanish, the Italians any day. So when that comes to a grinding halt, it's devastating. And there's so much bloody enjoyment, when you're hitting that level of perfection. We've just maintained our 3rd star now for 20 years. There's been 2 new females, Claire Smith, a former protege, 10 years in the making, first ever British female to win 3 stars. So what does that say for British cuisine? It's here to stay, and long may that continue.
What do you think about that? Because I saw that about Claire. It was amazing news, which you predicted that she would be the first female 3-star, Michelin 3-star. So you were absolutely right about that. And Angela obviously is also doing very well, and your daughter. And if you think about the industry that you grew up in and seeing all these women do fantastically well in it, what's changed over time and how do you think about the future given all of that?
I go back to the experience with Claire when she came out of Ireland and literally stood by my side for 8 years to see the way that she's, become a stature of absolute brilliance. To see them stand on their own 2 feet. It should be less of a masculine world. It should be more 50-50 split. We need more powerful females at the forefront. I can give you 6 names of young girls that are through the kitchens as we speak, from the Savoy to Lucky Cat, that are going to be the next Angelas and Claire Smiths.
Oh, that's exciting to hear. I mean, it's good because I have 2 young girls, so it's great to see these powerful role models for them. But you've been a mentor, right, for Claire, for Angela, now obviously for your daughter. What is it about the industry that that this is so important?
It's becoming that unselfish about the knowledge and sharing that insight. You can be taught to cook brilliantly. You can be taught to articulate your palate. I think food is a little bit like medicine. You need that 8 to 10 year investment that you just need to continue training, and come out of that comfort zone and become a little bit more vulnerable, learn a second language, see a different culture. That is what food's all about, understanding other people's culture.
Given your international experience, I know that you touched on this, where you've got restaurants all around the world. Most countries have been grappling with some form of lockdown and restrictions over the past year. How have you found the way that we as a government have approached the situation in terms of trying to help the industry? And are there things that we've done well that you think we have done well at, and other things that we should be learning from others? I'd be interested to know.
When you introduced the furlough scheme and you promised to drop that level of support financially by midnight, it was in our bank accounts, by the close of play at 5 o'clock to the hour. But I think we delivered. I think you delivered beyond. And then there was that level of support ongoing when we came out of lockdown. Yeah. I think the VAT reduction was huge. I think as a government, we've been supported better than any other country that I know. And secondly, you've been precise. What you've said, you've stood by and delivered.
I'm glad that that's working. Have you been able to keep producing content through some of these lockdowns? And because we're keen to make sure that the industry is carrying on going.
Yeah, that TV exemption legislation you put in was tremendous. We started this little board called Stacked. There's this pyramid, and we were stacking these little gold bars on there. And it was about answering sort of general knowledge questions in 60 seconds and balancing these gold bars to win money. This started, would you believe, March last year. And so 3 weeks later, we go into lockdown. And then Lisa Edwards, my CEO of the production company, Gordon Ramsay, she said, what the hell do we do? I said, we get creative. It's a young dynamic team. We've got 20-year-olds in there. These guys are incredible, young girls that are super creative socially, and they know what they're doing. Get them on the Zoom. So we started evolving this amazing game. And there was this young kid called Bronson. He was like sending everyone messages saying, this thing's got legs. I'm like, dude, you're 23. What do you mean it's got legs? He said, no, I promise you. Can we play again tomorrow? So we set up another Zoom, we get all their little things. Tana saying, what are you doing on that game? And so this thing started growing beautifully. We came out of lockdown in July. We got into one of the private dining rooms in the restaurants, and we started playing this thing. And all of a sudden, Rishi, this thing just started taking off. By the 1st of August, we had several major networks all bidding and competing for bank balance, which was just extraordinary because it was developed in lockdown. I went back and congratulated Lisa, and she phoned me 2 minutes later and said, I've got one problem. I said, what's that? She said, the BBC want you to present it. I'm like, oh shit. It's not MasterChef. Yeah, I'm not rubbing shoulders making scones with Mary Berry. It's a game show. Second lockdown comes, and the saving grace for us was the TV exemption, permission to film in that bubble, which was, it's fantastic for the team because there is so much uncertainty and, trepidation out there. But we are going to come out of this lockdown and we will bounce back. But to launch it in lockdown is a blessing.
That's phenomenal.
I told my mum about this last week. I said, Mum, the game show. She said, yeah. She said, that's really exciting. Why didn't you talk to Bradley Walsh to present it? I said, Mum, what do you mean Bradley Walsh? She said, well, he's a really good presenter. I said, it's me. She said, stop it. She's presenting a game show in your chef's jacket. I said, no, don't be so silly. This thing has happened in lockdown and it's going out in lockdown. So it's a big moment for me on Wednesday night.
When I think about your story, right, it could have gone very differently, right? At one point you were going off to be a footballer and then, I guess thankfully for the rest of us, less so for Glasgow Rangers, right? The injury came and you kind of took a turn into food over time. But starting with sports, I'm kind of like, you were very, very competitive when you were young at a very good level. And then now you're doing 1 million triathlons, Ironman, marathons, all the rest of it. And then there was a bit in the middle where it felt like maybe you weren't like that. I mean, there's a lot of focus on health and fitness now, and you're a great example of it. What happened in the middle and what kind of got you back into it?
So I got to a stage in my sort of early 30s. I was getting out of condition. In fact, it was my father-in-law back in 2003 that turned around and said, we're running tomorrow morning. I said, why? He said, because in 2 months' time, you've got the London Marathon coming up and you're running for a charity. And that was it. That was the start of it. And I took that level of exercise as something that was, it sounds crazy, but in many ways therapeutic because it relaxed my mind. Yeah. I used to fill a rucksack up, Rishi, with potatoes from Claridge's on a Friday night, 25, 30 pound, and run all the way down to Canary Wharf and then back up to the embankment to Wandsworth to get home after work. And that got me back. Midnight, mind clear, slept like a baby, and I woke up the next day feeling good, ready for the weekend off. I said to Tana, I've got a great idea how we can spend so much more time together. She said, what's that? I said, we'll do a triathlon together. And we did this amazing half Ironman. And when she crossed the line, when you saw the look in her eye, the swim, the bike and the run, and her face when she crossed the line was incredible. So we need to stay fit.
And we can all eat more as well, which is a good side product. So it's my main motivation for pummeling it every week. And if I look at your story, growing up the way you did on a council estate, I was reading about your mum, the difficulty with your dad, your brother, you came from all of that. And then look at you now, right? I mean, probably one of the most successful business people, chefs, athletes, media personalities that the country has. What were the ingredients that have got you from where you came from to where you are now?
I didn't set out, at the age of 27 when I opened my first restaurant to do what I've done and to have what I have and to motivate what we've motivated. I've just never taken things for granted. I've always stayed focused, and that's the double-edged sword of being, successful or going bust is what you waste in life. And it's really important as a value. Don't waste anything. And that stuck with me today.
We've got, we're hosting the G7 this year. So what would you do? What would the menu be? So we've got say North Yorkshire Spring. What's the menu to showcase best of British?
Spring lamb, beautifully done. And then to start, something with salmon or trout, because it's light, it's healthy. And then for desserts, I'd stay away from the Yorkshire pudding because I know sometimes they have it for starter. And then I'd do a quintessentially great cherry bakewell tart, something Yorkshire, something proud.
Okay, good, right, done. Last thing, home cooking habits. What do you think is the worst thing we all do?
It's in the prep. Ahead of the budget, it's all in the prep, right? because you're gonna get cross-examined and absolutely put over hot coals. The prep is 90% of the battle. If you prep well, the cooking becomes a dream. If you happen to re-prep or go back to something you've forgotten halfway through the cooking process, it spoils the flow. So the prep is important. It really is absolute. I cannot tell you.
Excellent. Look, you've been so generous with your time, Gordon. Thanks very much. It's been
absolute pleasure.
Real treat. And I'm looking forward to the game show. Hopefully I'll get to come and see you at some point in one of the restaurants.
My best to the ladies, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.
Best wishes.
Bye.
Thanks.